I'm Jeff, and we're the Vacation Addicts. So many of you have already seen our clips on St. Croix, and about 4 days after we got back from St. Croix, we got up and left for a quick weekend in Alaska.
We went to see the Iditarod. Did 2 starts. It actually has 2 starts. One is a ceremonial start in Anchorage. Second is the real official start in Willow, Alaska, out on top of a frozen lake. And it's the beginning of an 1,100-mile dog sled race.
Wendy, being the history major, makes sure that we get plenty of time learning all the history of the local area, hitting museums and that sort of thing. So this was the 51st running of the race, and it all started with trying to get vaccines to an area just around Nome to try to stop
diphtheria.
And so they do a ceremonial race every year. It's considered the last greatest race on earth. It takes about 9 days from start to finish for the 1,100-mile journey.
The majority of contestants are experienced mushers, and they live, a lot of them, a very basic subsistence lifestyle up in Alaska, or some of them are from the Scandinavian area. They're used to those conditions. We had just gotten back from St. Croix, and we had great tans, and we were not acclimated to Cincinnati weather, let alone Alaskan weather, but we did it. We dressed warm and had a great time.
So on Saturday morning, they do the ceremonial start within the streets of Anchorage. Everyone's lining the streets from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The dog teams of 12 dogs and 1 musher race through the city streets and warm up their dogs with a 90-mile or so run up to Willow, where they camp for the night and come back out the next morning. Anchorage is a very small town. It took us by surprise, but it's surrounded by beautiful mountains. Of course, there was plenty of snow the first weekend of March. Some great local restaurants, some breweries. Then, of course, there's all kinds of activities during the start of the race. So they've got food trucks and festivals and fairs going on. And then they had an ice sculpture competition where they had blocks of ice that were about 10 foot tall by 10 foot wide. Had them on display.
Then we had dinner at a place called 49th State, because Alaska was the 49th state to the Union, and it was a brewery, great place, fireplaces, cozy, warm, definite wilderness kind of a feel to it, though. You could get yak burgers and bison burgers. Interesting, eclectic menu.
For sure. Anyway, the next day for the start of the race was in Willow, about an hour-and-a-half drive north, and we had some friends with us, and rather than trying to fight the crowds in the parking, we were able to go to Alpha helicopter tours and rent a helicopter for the afternoon. And it flew us about 20 minutes instead of a couple-hour drive. It took us 20 minutes to get to Willow, where we landed on the lake right at the starting line of the race, and hung out and bought a bunch of Girl Scout cookies right there on the frozen lake, and watched the official start of the race.
Yeah, and then we flew up again in the helicopter, watched the dogs' sleds from the sky.
We caught them as they're going probably another 50 miles away by then, and we're out in the wilderness, and people lined up all over the place for miles and miles and miles to watch them. That was really interesting. And then after chasing the dogs, our pilot took us up into the mountains, where we flew around the mountains looking for bear tracks. We did see a handful of moose and glaciers.
Oh, and the glaciers and the mountain peaks flying right over them, just 50 feet, 100 feet above.
Many of the glaciers are still expanding. A lot of people think all the glaciers are receding, but there's quite a few up there that are still expanding, and over 100,000 glaciers in Alaska. And our pilot was able to come down and land us right next to some glaciers for some photo ops, and right next to a frozen waterfall, which was just absolutely gorgeous. The ice is a bright blue because of all the pressure squeezing all the air out of the ice.
It's just a big prism of blue.
By then it was the end of the day, and pretty much the end of our trip. We had to get up early in the morning and fly back, so we flew in on a Friday and flew out early Monday morning. But had an experience of a lifetime. Can't wait to go back when it's a little warmer.
Yeah,
They
go
say
check
it's
it out.
very different when all the snow's melted and
And you have midnight sun.
green, and you have midnight sun all day long. So,
So we'll be heading back there again in the next year or two, perhaps.
yeah. So if you go to our website, we'll probably have some details on where we ate, what we did, how we got there, how to get a hold of the helicopter tours, and check it out for yourself.